In 1999, a civil engineer walked into a grocery store and used 12,150 cups of chocolate pudding to legally extract $800,000 in travel value from 3 major airlines. David Phillips didn't use a computer or a weapon. He used his training as a civil engineer to locate a single weak point, a mathematical stress crack capable of collapsing an entire corporate incentive system. That crack was hidden in a Healthy Choice promotional flyer. The rules were simple. Mail in 10 barcodes from any of their products to earn 500 frequent flyer miles. If you submitted them before June, the reward doubled to 1,000 miles. The corporation failed to account for the extreme edge case. The promotion didn't specify which products qualified, and it didn't set a minimum price. Phillips realized that if he could find a product cheap enough, the math would shift entirely in his favor. Most shoppers just saw a standard discount coupon. Phillips saw a systemic vacuum, an unprotected anomaly that allowed him to buy airline currency for a fraction of its market value. Phillips systematically hunted for the cheapest possible barcode. $2 frozen dinners were too expensive. 90-cent canned soups were better, but they didn't offer the maximum possible return on his investment. He finally found his leverage in a discount store clearance aisle, individual chocolate pudding cups priced at just 25 cents each. 10 barcodes cost $2.50, earning 1,000 miles. That's 1/4 of a cent per mile. A standard $1,000 ticket to Europe requires 50,000 miles. Using the pudding method, Phillips acquired those same miles for just $25. To scale the exploit, he spent 3 weeks buying out every grocery outlet within 50 miles. To avoid suspicion while loading thousands of desserts into his van, he told clerks he was stockpiling for Y2K, using the era's computer crash panic as a logical cover for his hoarding. By exploiting the massive gap between the clearance price and the promotional airline value, Phillips executed a retail arbitrage, turning $3,000 into a massive cache of travel currency. Unlike a digital hack, this exploit was bound by physics. Phillips had thousands of pudding cups sitting in his garage, and he had only weeks to manually peel and process 12,150 sticky labels before the double miles deadline. The labor was grueling. His wife and children spent hours in the garage peeling labels until their fingers blistered and their hands cramped. As the deadline approached, it became clear the family couldn't finish the job alone. Phillips pivoted. He called the Salvation Army with a proposal. He would donate the entire 12,000-cup stockpile to their hunger relief programs, provided their volunteers peeled off the barcodes and returned them to him. The trade worked. The charity received thousands of dollars in free food, and Phillips received neat stacks of 12,000 labels, delivered just in time to meet the corporate deadline. This was labor arbitrage, strategically converting a physical bottleneck into a charitable donation to secure the workforce he needed to finish the heist. The donation to the Salvation Army triggered a final advantage. Under U.S. tax law, deductions for charitable gifts are based on a product's standard retail value, regardless of what the donor paid for it. While Phillips paid a clearance price of 25 cents per cup, the government officially recognized the retail value at 89 cents. By donating 12,150 cups, he generated a legally recognized charitable contribution of over $10,800. He claimed a conservative $815 deduction, effectively receiving a cash rebate from the federal government on his original investment. This tax arbitrage meant the U.S. government essentially subsidized the cost of his airline miles. Phillips had now stacked 3 different forms of arbitrage, weaponizing grocery store promotions, charitable labor, and federal tax codes to break the system. The final tally was staggering. After the tax rebate, Phillips had spent roughly $2,300 to acquire 1.25 million frequent flyer miles. The $800,000 valuation comes from how these miles are redeemed. While 50,000 miles buys a cheap economy seat, it also buys international first-class tickets that retail for $20,000 or more. By redeeming his 1.25 million miles for these high-end seats over a lifetime, Phillips secured nearly $1 million in luxury travel. This wasn't a lucky win. It was a masterclass in identifying and exploiting the friction between massive, disconnected institutions. He recognized that frequent flyer miles aren't just loyalty rewards. They are a valuable, privately minted currency, often more stable and portable than the dollars used to buy the pudding. Major airlines operate as unregulated shadow banks. While commercial airlines are frequently described as traditional transportation companies, their internal balance sheets tell a vastly different story. In reality, these companies earn their true profits by acting as high-margin financial institutions. Every time a customer swipes a co-branded credit card, the bank pays the airline between 2 and 3 cents for a single mile. The airline fulfills that mile for less than half a cent when it's eventually redeemed for a seat. This process allows airlines to print their own currency out of thin air. They control the supply, set the prices, and operate with profit margins as high as 500%, all within a loyalty economy that remains almost entirely unregulated by the government. While the miles attract the customers, the granular data provides the long-term value. Every hotel stay, grocery purchase, and Uber ride is tracked and analyzed, turning the passenger into the actual product being sold. These loyalty programs are a multi-billion-dollar shadow economy designed to harvest lifestyle data and generate profit through private currency. When Healthy Choice launched a new mileage promotion, the marketing team designed the rules around traditional grocery habits. They expected shoppers to buy a few frozen dinners or cans of soup to earn a modest travel credit. David Phillips approached it as a pure math problem. He identified a 25-cent pudding cup that generated airline miles worth $8. By scaling this 3,000% markup, Phillips purchased enough pudding to mail in over 12,000 barcodes. He anticipated a corporate challenge and prepared accordingly. Every barcode was sent in a specific batch via certified mail, creating a massive paper trail of receipts and tracking numbers that made his claim undeniable. Phillips didn't just win a contest, he executed a legally airtight arbitrage strategy that turned the corporation's own mathematical errors against them. The arrival of over 12,000 barcodes from a single individual triggered an immediate investigation at the Healthy Choice Processing Center. The financial implications for Conagra were severe. Phillips had spent just over $3,000 to generate $800,000 in travel value, forcing the company to purchase a massive block of miles from the airlines at wholesale rates. Within the Conagra legal department, a team began dissecting every word and footnote of the original promotion, searching for any technicality that would allow them to void the submission. The contract they had drafted was full of holes. It specified no minimum purchase price, it didn't exclude items on clearance, and it failed to set a limit on the number of submissions per household. Because Phillips followed every rule to the letter, any attempt to deny his miles would result in a definitive legal defeat. Conagra shifted to a strategy of silence and delay. When Phillips reached out for an update, representatives simply told him his submission was under review before cutting off all further communication. The silence created a period of intense pressure. As weeks passed with no confirmation and an empty mailbox, Phillips was left with thousands of dollars of spent capital and no guarantee of a return. His social circle became increasingly skeptical, with friends suggesting he had been outmaneuvered by corporate lawyers, and his wife questioning the utility of the towers of pudding in their garage. Phillips spent his time obsessively rereading the promotional flyer, second-guessing his own math and searching for a hidden cap he might have missed in the fine print. Winning the math was the easy part. The real challenge was surviving the psychological warfare of a corporate stall tactic. 2 months after the initial mailing, a massive package arrived at the Phillips home, signaling the end of the corporate standoff. Inside were 2,506 paper certificates. Combined, they represented 1.25 million frequent flyer miles. Conagra had finally honored the deal. The 25,000% return on investment was now a physical reality sitting on his living room floor. But while he had beaten the food conglomerate, these paper certificates were still one step removed from actual travel. They had to be accepted by the ultimate gatekeeper, the airline. Phillips now faced a final obstacle that couldn't be reasoned with or sued: the airline's automated fraud detection system. To avoid triggering an account freeze, he diversified his risk. He deposited smaller portions of the miles into his accounts with United, Delta, and Northwest, hoping to fly under the radar of their security protocols. The bulk of the haul, over 1 million miles, was earmarked for his primary American Airlines account. He entered the codes and submitted the deposit, waiting for the system to validate the massive influx of currency. Instead of the usual instant confirmation, the screen stalled. For 3 hours, the account remained in a processing state, leaving Phillips to wonder if the airline had flagged the transaction as suspicious. He had outsmarted a team of executives and lawyers, but now he was trapped at the mercy of a silent algorithm. At American Airlines headquarters in Fort Worth, Texas, an analyst stares at an automatic alert on her screen. A single customer has just submitted certificates for 1.25 million miles all at once. Every single certificate traces back to the exact same Healthy Choice promotion. Executives take a decade to accumulate 1 million miles. This guy did it in an afternoon. She pulls up his account history, fully expecting a scam, but she finds no chargebacks and no previous flags. The certificate codes are valid. She checks the terms of the promotion. There is absolutely no cap on submissions. Her finger hovers over the fraud department extension. One phone call shuts this down. She puts the phone down and clicks approve. The account instantly updates to a balance of 1,250,000 miles, and right next to it, a new badge appears, Lifetime Gold status. For an out-of-pocket cost of $2,325, David Phillips legally bypassed thousands of hours in the air. He instantly bought his way into the top 1% of global travelers. Phillips tells a few friends about the balance sitting in his account. One of them mentions it to a journalist, and by August 1999, the Los Angeles Times runs a story about a man earning over 1 million frequent flyer miles by buying pudding. The story rapidly escapes local papers. CNN picks it up, then the Wall Street Journal, Time magazine, and international news networks broadcast the pudding guy to the world. While reporters ask for interviews, Phillips panics. He knows exactly how this looks. Now that the exploit is highly public, Conagra or American Airlines could easily revoke his miles to avoid looking foolish. What started as a meticulously planned mathematical execution is now completely out of his hands. His entire payout hinges on how two corporations decide to manage their public relations. If American Airlines and Conagra strip him of his earnings now, they punish a customer for following their own rules. They become the villains, punishing an everyday guy who beat them at their own game. So they do nothing. Conagra releases a brief statement confirming the promotion will be honored exactly as written. American Airlines stays quiet. Phillips keeps his miles. But that quiet concession acts as a starting gun. Millions of people just watched a man get rich in miles from his local grocery store, and a dedicated subculture of travel hackers begins hunting for the next poorly written fine print. By handing over the miles, the corporations inadvertently admitted defeat. They proved that massive corporate blind spots are out there, and if you follow the rules, those blind spots are legally yours to exploit. 9 years later, the United States government needs a way to get the new presidential $1 coin into public circulation. So the US Mint launches an online promotion. They allow the public to buy the coins at face value, but they leave two massive loopholes. Buyers can pay with rewards credit cards, and the Mint covers all the shipping fees. Hackers spot the math immediately. Buy $10,000 in coins with a rewards card, instantly earning 10,000 miles. The Mint ships the boxes for free. Deposit the cash at your bank, pay off the credit card bill, zeroing the balance before interest accrues. The system has zero limit. While Phillips earned 1.25 million miles for a couple $1,000s, one hacker runs this loop enough times to net 4 million miles without spending a dime. In a desperate attempt to stimulate the economy, the US government inadvertently funded an exponentially larger hack, and they completely paid for the shipping. While copycats hoarded points just to see the numbers go up, David Phillips actually put his earnings to work. Shortly after the story breaks, he books first-class tickets to visit friends near Milan, Italy, with his wife and 2 young daughters. From there, they fly to Spain for a week-long stay in Barcelona, and before heading home, they lay over in London to take the kids to see The Lion King. Over the next 7 years, those miles fund first-class flights to 40 different countries. His family sees the world from the front of the plane, all entirely paid for by a $2,325 grocery run. It raises an uncomfortable question about how we view corporate promotions. When someone takes extreme advantage of a company's generosity, are they a freeloader or just a genius who actually read the terms and conditions? Look at the mechanics of the transaction. He didn't lie on a form, he didn't steal a barcode, and he never broke a rule. He executed his math perfectly. Conagra, a multi-billion-dollar food conglomerate, lost $25,000 strictly because they failed to proofread their own promotional mailers. We live in a system governed heavily by fine print. David Phillips succeeded because he understood that sometimes the machine works exactly as it was written.